I am the affair baby, and I'm so tired of being unloved and forgotten. I don't really know how this works, I just got the idea to try asking here because my friend talks about this site all the time. Sorry for how long it is, there's just so much to say. I, 18 female, was born on January 29, 1990. My parents had been married for 15 years at that point. The problem was they were both married to other people. I am the product of a 14-month office affair. Today is supposed to be my high school graduation party. I guess it is that. My parents decided to split the cost of the event. What that means is they are splitting the effort. My parents have brought me to Two Springs Park here in Bellevue. Only my mom will be here the whole time. My parents are not allowed to interact with each other, other than when they need to discuss or exchange me. There is pizza, which is okay. I don't dislike pizza, but it's not in my top 10 favorite foods. There's a cake, I appreciate that they got buttercream icing this time. I have a lot of friends. Like 12 of them came. There wasn't enough food for everybody, not really. I knew there wouldn't be. We went for a walk on the trails. I knew I couldn't be gone too long though, or my mother would complain about being left alone. The party lasted about 90 minutes and Mom was ready to go. I would have liked to leave with any of my friends, but my mother insisted that I drive us here in my 2000 Dodge Neon, because she didn't want to put gas in her new Escalade and my stepdad was out and she can't pump her own gas, but I can't touch her car, it's so stupid. So I got to drive her home, and listen about how I seemed ungrateful for the party. When I got home I opened my cards. My friends are awesome. They wrote the best messages in my cards, and gave me some money. My mom and stepdad gave me $20, my dad and stepmom gave me $25. I knew he would do that, the only thing I can count on my dad for is one-upping my mom. For two people who apparently spent months banging on an office couch, they sure do resent each other now. I know this might just sound like a lot of bratty whining. I know these are first world problems. It's just sad, I'm just sad, and it's always like this. I just feel like I don't matter to any of them. It's like, it's not my fault. My parents messed up, I didn't ask for this. None of my siblings, all of whom live on their own and have jobs, came to my party. Nor did they send cards. I'm used to being left out though. I was pretty happy when I turned 11 and none of them were ever asked to watch me again. Listening to 5 other people who are supposed to care about you call you a waste of their time is pretty hard on an 8-year-old, believe me. Enough of the sad part. My Aunt Dina's card came yesterday. ZOMG, it had $150 in it. I am finally happy that they live so far away. Her and my 2 cousins are the only reason I love Christmas. I called her and thanked them. We ended up chatting for like 2 hours as each of my cousins wanted to talk too. I am just 3 months away from living near them and far away from this epic fail. I am so excited. I am getting some guilt trips. Well, attempts at guilt trips, I'm so over it they rarely affect me anymore. The funniest thing was my dad acting like me going out of state was the reason he wouldn't be helping me with college. Like he was ever going to. Anyway, I am going to the University of Missouri, go Tigers. I can't wait. My aunt and cousins live in a town near there, Boonville, and I am so excited because I'll see them all the time. This was my first choice. I looked at Iowa and Iowa State. At Iowa, we were led around by the worst, most pretentious, condescending student guide ever. I know virtually nothing about track, but I literally no longer respect pole vaulters, and it's all because of her. Alicia, if you ever read this, you got that school crossed off the list real quick. Iowa State was fine, but not fine enough to overcome my chance to be with my aunt and cousins. I am going to be pre-med undergrad, then into the medical school to become the world's greatest plastic surgeon. I have dreamed about being a surgeon since I saw my first episode of Grey's. Not really, I have always wanted to be a doctor since I was little. August 15th move-in day is the first step towards Dr. Tina Freeman MD, saving the world one boob job at a time. Okay, enough about my life, to the reason I wrote all this. I want to know if I'm being an a-hole here? My one friend kind of said my plan is a-hole-ish. What I haven't told my parents is that when I move, I'm not coming back. I have a lot of scholarships, and student loans will do the rest. My aunt says I can stay with her during breaks and holidays, and I'll get a job somewhere around Columbia. I'm also not asking them to help me move, I'm moving out in secret 2 days early and just going. I'm for real, I'm not coming back to Nebraska, like ever again. Would this make me an a-hole? I really don't feel like I owe anyone an explanation. I have been an afterthought at best my whole life. The graduation party is just one small example in a lifetime of similar trash behavior. I didn't think I was being an a-hole either, and only one friend said anything like that. All the rest of my friends were like, "Your family sucks." I came back to tell you the story since so many people asked. I don't know all the info, just what I've picked up over the years from people talking or when my real parent would fight with my step-parent. So this all happened a long time ago. I'll start with my dad, Barry. Barry, 57M, married my stepmom, Brianne, 52F, in 1975. He works at Mutual of Omaha, he makes bank. Given my oldest brother's birthday in relation to their wedding date, I suspect they had Tio get married. My two older brothers are Lawrence, 32M, and Liam, 30M. Brianne has always been a stay-at-home mom. My mom, Melinda, 56F, is married to Mark Whitmore, 58M, my stepdad. He works at Kiewit, and I still don't really know what he does, but he makes a decent amount too. I have 3 older siblings on this side, Jasmine, 32F, Jada, 29F, and Jamie, 26M. My mom says she was a strong independent woman before Mark came along. When she got pregnant with my oldest sister, she started staying at home. That was until a year after Jamie started school. She said she was bored at home and got a day job at Mutual of Omaha. I have no idea what she did there, but I heard she was not my dad's secretary, so at least they are not that cliché. I don't know how fast the affair started, but it went on for a long time. Until my mom got pregnant with me. I don't know if this was just Jada being mean, but when I was 7 I got into her makeup and she said, "I wish grandma hadn't stopped mom from aborting you." Again, I don't know if that's true. I have only seen one picture of me with my grandma, but she was smiling while holding me, so she may have liked me. She died when I was a year and a half old. My mom and Mark, I guess, were going through a dry spell. So there was no doubt that I wasn't his. The affair nearly led to divorce in both marriages, but they both ultimately decided to reconcile. None of the adults wanted another baby. My parents came to some agreement that I would spend a week in one home, the next week in the other. They have never swayed from that. They have never traded weeks. The only exception is Christmas. I spend the 23rd and 24th with the Freeman side, 25th and 26th with the Whitmore side. From what I understand, both of them told their spouses that it was a one-time thing. Mark turned into some sort of super detective and started going through everything. He found a receipt for a hotel room that was from 8 months earlier. I think he found stuff on bank statements. When they would fight, which was typical when I was there, Mark would often say stuff like, "I'm gonna check the bank statements, you're being a bitch just like when you were fucking her dad." He also had a friend or two over at Mutual that said the rumors had started over a year before he found out. Eventually, I think my mom caved and told him enough. I know Mark dropped a letter off to my Brianne. He really wanted to ruin my dad's marriage. Good luck with that, my dad is her sugar daddy, she isn't getting rid of him ever. I'm pretty sure he still cheats. They both still faced their consequences. Each of my step-parents is very quick to pull the affair card during an argument. Even today, 18 years later. My dad endlessly tries to appease Brianne. If she wants it, he drops everything, that's his priority. My mom has not worked since she got pregnant with me, and Mark guilt trips her anytime she goes anywhere by herself, and then grills her about it when she gets back. The best part is that thanks to denial and blame shifting, these two grown adults blew up their own lives, and now get to make it seem like that was my fault. My siblings have always resented me. They make it sound like on the week I'm gone, their parents are just great. They don't fight, it's a fun-loving environment. That is not what it's like when I am there. My stepparents' tension towards me is obvious, and the cheater always does what they can to make them feel better. My siblings have never wanted anything to do with me. I get that they are much older, so now that I'm older I kind of understand, but I've been largely frozen out. Even once they were adults they rarely came to my birthdays or events, and if they did it was only because they would get something like dinner out of it. I'm used to it. It's just all the things that I've learned over the years that hurt the most. Like my mom and Mark took the whole family to Disney every time one of them turned 6. I've never been to Disney. My dad takes the family out to dinner for every kid's birthday, wherever they want to go, at least when I was younger he did. It's not as much now that they are adults. When it's my birthday it's always going to fast food, and it's usually just me and my dad. I didn't get to go to any of my siblings' weddings. They were either no kids or on the opposite parents' day. Like I'm 18 now, and Jamie is getting married in September, and I'm not invited because it's on my dad's weekend. I'm 18, we don't need a custody agreement anymore. This stuff also happened for vacations and parties almost 90% of the time. Those are the big things, there are a million little things too. My mom would do mommy/petty days with my older sisters, and I was always told it's a big girl day. When I hit my teens, now it was her just wanting to catch up with her adult daughters. I really don't connect with anyone on my dad's side. Boy things are a priority, girl things are not, that pretty much sums it up. I know from photos and stuff that all my siblings got to do youth sports, dance, science camps, art camps, and so on. I never did, unless they had to save face, or it had overnights where I wouldn't be at their house. I didn't get to start doing extra stuff until I got to middle school and that was all provided by the school. I know it sounds whiny, it just hurts my feelings because my siblings got to do all these great things, and I didn't. I know a lot of kids don't get to do any of these things or have new clothes, I did, image is everything. But, my parents had the means, they just chose not to with me. My mom's older brother is nice enough, but pretty hands-off with kids. I had no grandpas when I was born, my one grandma died when I was baby, and the other is just a mean old woman, but she's like that with everybody. The only relatives I have that are great are my Aunt Dina, 49F, who is my dad's little sister, her husband Henrik, 49M, and my 2 cousins Dagny, 20F, and Daisy, 18F. Dagny had a mishap, as she called it. Thus Aunt Dina is Grandma Dina now, and we have the very adorable Elias, 1.5M. I love them all so much. I'm not super close to Henrik, he is very quiet but very nice. I only get to see them every other Christmas. They spend the other one in Norway with Henrik's family. I did get to come stay with them for 2 weeks last year and it was amazing. I have often suspected that the reason my dad doesn't totally ignore me is my aunt. Anyway, just 2 more months, and I am out of Bellevue forever. I'll be around my aunt and cousins. I cannot wait. I wonder how long it will take my family to even notice I haven't called or visited. As I started packing up my things, I felt a mix of emotions. I was finally leaving behind the toxic environment I had endured for 18 years, but there was still a sense of sadness and loss. I didn't choose to be born into this situation, yet it had shaped so much of who I was. The day I left, my mom barely looked up from her phone as I walked out the door. Mark was in his office, probably going through bank statements or whatever else kept him occupied. At my dad's house, Brienne was out shopping, and my dad just gave me a nod when I told him I was leaving. It was like any other day for them. I packed my car with the few belongings I actually cared about and took one last look at the house I had spent so much time in. I wasn't going to miss it. Not one bit. Driving away from Bellevue felt like shedding a heavy weight. The further I got, the more I started to feel like I could breathe. My Aunt Dina's house was in Lincoln, and the closer I got, the lighter I felt. When I arrived, Dina was waiting for me on the porch, her smile wide and welcoming. Dagny and Daisy came running out to greet me, and even little Elias toddled over, giggling as he tried to keep up with his mom and aunt. Henrik waved from the doorway, his usual quiet but kind self. "We're so happy you're here, Tina," Dina said as she pulled me into a hug. For the first time in a long while, I felt like I was truly wanted, like I belonged somewhere. I knew things wouldn't be perfect, but at least I was with people who cared about me for who I was, not for what I represented. That night, we had a big family dinner. Dina cooked all my favorite foods, and we sat around the table laughing and talking about everything and nothing. It was the kind of family I had always wished for, the kind I thought only existed in movies. As I got ready for bed, I checked my phone. Not a single missed call or text from anyone in Bellevue. I guess it didn't really surprise me, but it still stung a little. I turned off my phone, deciding that I didn't need to check it again anytime soon. The next morning, I woke up to the smell of pancakes and the sound of Dagny and Daisy arguing playfully in the kitchen. I smiled to myself, feeling more at home than I ever had before. A few weeks passed, and I started to settle into a new routine. Dina helped me find a job, and I was already planning on starting college in the fall. I was starting a new chapter of my life, and for the first time, I felt like I had control over it. One evening, I got a text from my dad. It was short and to the point, just asking if I was okay. I stared at it for a while, debating whether or not to respond. In the end, I decided to send a brief reply, just letting him know that I was fine and living with Aunt Dina. A few minutes later, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was from my mom. Her message was even shorter, "Where are you?" I didn't reply. Days turned into weeks, and soon a month had passed. My mom and dad both reached out a few more times, but I kept my responses minimal. I wasn't ready to let them back in, not after everything. Then, one day, as I was walking home from work, my phone rang. It was my Aunt Dina. "Tina, your dad's here," she said, her voice calm but serious. I felt my stomach drop. I wasn't ready for this. I didn't know if I'd ever be ready. When I got home, I found my dad sitting on the porch with Aunt Dina. He looked older, more tired than I remembered. When he saw me, he stood up, his hands in his pockets, looking unsure of himself. "Can we talk?" he asked, his voice hesitant. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. We sat down, and for a while, neither of us said anything. Finally, he broke the silence. "I know I haven't been the best father," he started, his voice thick with emotion. "I know I've hurt you, and I'm sorry. I didn't realize how much I was failing you until you were gone." Listened as he spoke, and for the first time, I saw a side of my dad that I hadn't seen before. He wasn't the distant, indifferent man I had grown up with. He was just a flawed person, like everyone else, who had made mistakes and was now trying to make amends. When he finished, I didn't say anything for a long time. I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to forgive him, but another part of me wasn't ready to let go of the hurt. "I'm not sure if I can forgive you," I finally said, my voice shaky. "But I appreciate that you came here, that you're trying." He nodded, looking down at his hands. "I understand. I just want you to know that I'm here, whenever you're ready. I'll wait as long as it takes." We sat there in silence for a while longer before he finally got up to leave. As he walked away, I felt a mix of emotions. I wasn't ready to forgive him yet, but maybe, someday, I would be. For now, though, I was focused on building a new life for myself, one where I was surrounded by people who truly cared about me. And that was enough. As the days went on, I started to feel more at peace. I was still figuring things out, but for the first time in a long time, I felt hopeful about the future. I had a family who loved me, and I was finally starting to love myself too. And that, I realized, was the best feeling of all.